Good. Welcome to Mock 10 Sports in this January 2nd, 2023 episode. We have a fantastic show for you tonight. But what did you think yesterday? We had two games that came down to the last play. Both games came down to the last play. The Rose Bowl, Alabama, Michigan, a fantastic matchup. Obviously, Texas, Washington, another phenomenal matchup. Both came down. Obviously, Michigan, Alabama, overtime. And then we got the Washington-Texas game came down to a final play as well. We said it all month. We said it all month on this show. This was going to be the best semifinal matchups of the 14 playoff era in my mind. The best semifinal matchups in the 4-team era in my mind. I still think the committee got it right, too. I still think they got it right. There's a lot of people out there that are kind of saying, hey, maybe Florida State or Georgia should have got in over Alabama, and I don't get that. I mean, Alabama was the 4 seed. They were the underdog. I mean, granted, about 1.5 points, but still, I don't get how that would happen when Alabama beat Georgia a month ago. So, prepping for the show, I want to re-rank my top 6, and it may surprise you. If I was going to rank my top 6 objectively, which is what we bring you objectively, I'm going to give you my top 6 realistically, how we stand right now. And then I want to go over some key plays from the Rose Bowl, from the game yesterday, and where I was right and where I was wrong in regards to the Rose Bowl matchup. Then finally, it's never too early to start talking about the 2024 SEC football season. I'm going to give you my way too early 2024 SEC power rankings heading into the season. But let's get right to it. Michigan gets the 27-20 overtime win over Alabama to win the Rose Bowl and to advance to the national championship. Congratulations to Jim Harbaugh and Michigan. But let's start with the basics here. Michigan, the most physical team that Alabama's played all year, maybe the country. Probably the country. I'll say the country. I mean, there's 2 teams left, Washington and Michigan. I would say Michigan's the most physical team in the country. We said it going into the preview. This is the deepest defensive line in the country. I don't really think they have just absolute wreckers on the defensive line, but they're deep and there's not much drop-off between many of the people. Many guys from 4 to 6, 6 to 8. There's just not a lot of drop-off. Now, as well, Michigan, I still think Alabama, as good as they played up front, Michigan, I still think Alabama left some meat on the bone when running the football. They averaged 4, Alabama ended up averaging 4 yards per carry. I thought Alabama adjusted well in the second half, but Michigan's pass rush was just all over Alabama. I mean, left tackle Caden Proctor struggled, the true freshman. He looked like he did early in the year, which is fine. Michigan's a good defensive line unit. We'll talk about Alabama here in a minute, but apparently he had a ligament injury he suffered last week in his ankle. So I don't know why he's playing out there when they've had to cover for him a little bit. He struggled before. Maybe you bring in Elijah Pritchett there. Again, Alabama averaged 4.4 yards per carry. And that was on like 43 attempts. So they weren't just pounding the rock against Michigan, but I thought they left some rushing yards out there. And a lot of it was because of some penalties, some negative yards in the passing game. They would take sacks, back-to-back sacks a couple of times, where they would have to, obviously, 2nd and 15, you can't really run the football. 3rd and 12, you can't run the football. So they got Alabama. They didn't stay ahead of the chains. They didn't stay on schedule. So therefore, it's going to take you out of your run game. But I was also surprised. Normally, to beat an Alabama, specifically a Nick Saban-led team, you got to have some elite quarterback play. You do. You got to have some elite quarterback play, and you have to play well. And I don't necessarily think Michigan played their best game. I think Michigan and Jim Harbaugh would agree with me from that standpoint. Multiple special teams blunders, 2 muffed punts, 1 to start the game, 1 at the very end of the game, a botched extra point, and then a missed field goal. I mean, they didn't play well on special teams at all. I mean, with that being said as well, Alabama didn't play its best game either and could have won the football game. I thought the offensive game plan for Alabama was very questionable in the first half. I thought Tommy Rees's play calling was very questionable in the first half. I thought Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for Michigan, who we'll talk about him and Sherrod Moore, the offensive coordinator for Michigan here in a bit. I thought Jesse Minter called a phenomenal game. I knew it. He made life hell for Ohio State when he went back and watched that game. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. said in the postgame, I haven't been bracketed. Like, they've done stuff I'd never seen before. And I knew they would try to do that against Jalen Milroe. I mean, Jalen Milroe wasn't awful. I mean, what were the numbers? Let me look it up here. Jalen Milroe's number 16 for 23, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Wasn't like he was just turning the rock over, but he wasn't great. They threw a lot at him. He looked confused, never really looked that comfortable in the game. But Jesse Minter, early and often, they were bringing pressure. I thought after about the first series, Alabama needed to get it out some wide receiver screens and see if Michigan was interested in tackling. Maybe not interested, but see if they could. Thought the game plan in the second half was a lot better. But again, Michigan had them looked lost. Michigan had them on their heels. Bama struggling on first downs, giving up 5 sacks in the first half. But like I said, Bama adjusted, but still the offensive line bad in pass pro. Had some very untimely sacks. Milroe looked uncomfortable on edge. They had some key penalties, got behind the sticks, and had some negative plays that got them off their script. Then the snapping issues just continued for Alabama. Seth McLaughlin and Jalen Milroe, just the snapping, lack of communication. I mean, some of them aren't even a communication thing. They're just so bad from Seth McLaughlin. It's rearing its ugly head. But both teams, I think, left some opportunities on the table, especially Michigan in the first half. I mean, they were only up 13-10 at half. A missed extra point, should have been up 14-10. Felt like Alabama was down double digits at half, or should have been. Then Alabama, multiple chances, up 3 a lot in the fourth quarter. They go up 11 with 7 or 8 minutes left. It's probably over because Michigan's not an explosive offense. They're not going to go get a bunch of chunk plays at once. Even the drive they went and scored at Alabama, they had to convert a fourth down and run 3 or 4 more plays, I believe. I went back and watched the game 2 or 3 times today. But just off the top of my head, that's what I remember. So if Alabama would have ever went up 10, it would have been tough to come back from. Herbstreit was saying it himself. Herbstreit was saying it. The Alabama can score here. It'll be tough with 5 or 6 minutes if they go up 10. Alabama had numerous opportunities, some big penalties. We'll talk about it. And then I think once Michigan tied it up, I felt like Michigan was going to win the football game. Going into overtime felt even better because I think the overtime rules in college favor Michigan in the matchup. The field position, Michigan was playing horrible in special teams. You kind of took that out of it. No more punting, no more potential for muff punts or anything like that. Now, field goal kicker wasn't great, and he could have been factored in. But I think Harbaugh genuinely thought, I had some buddies texting me when it happened, if they score here, they're going to go for 2. I was like, no, I mean, I think Jim Harbaugh thinks he is the better football team. I don't think he's going to go for 2. In years past, yeah, if he had a chance to go win it on one play, he may have. But I think he thought he had the better team, and I think he did. I mean, again, give both coordinators, offensive coordinator Sherrone Moore, not only in this game but for the season, he's been the interim head coach, and the defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, who's been with the Ravens before, doing a phenomenal job. They had an awesome game plan. Sherrone Moore knew Nick Saban was going to play a lot of man. I mean, it's in Nick Saban and Kevin Steele's DNA. They like to play a lot of man with that Alabama Rip Liz pattern matching defense. So you had a lot of crossers, and you saw that a lot, especially Michigan's first touchdown down in the red zone with Blake Corum. They had Alabama all mixed up, and they brought Blake Corum right out of the backfield. No one could cover him. Kind of set some pick screens, not illegally. That was great game plan. And Alabama was struggling to cover the running back out of the backfield. But I thought Michigan had a good game plan. Took some stuff it looked like from the Auburn run scheme that Auburn had success against Alabama with, and they used it to their advantage. And then Jesse Minter bringing a lot of pressure, a lot of stunts that Jalen Milroe holding the football too long, bad snaps with Seth McLaughlin had him on his heels, offensive line not communicating. It was a rough first half for Alabama's offensive line. Again, got better in the second half, but the first half was rough, but that's a credit to Michigan's game plan. I knew they would. They have a good coaching staff, guys. They have a good coaching staff. I think a lot of people in the Southeast underestimated this Michigan team. I predicted Alabama to win 26-20. Knew it would be close, but a lot of buddies, a lot of people talked to felt really good about Alabama beating Michigan. I didn't feel really good about it. I thought Alabama would beat Michigan, but didn't feel really good about it. But let's get to some key plays. I have 4. I'm going to show you 3 of them. Feel really good about these. Let's get right to it. Share the screen here. All right, so here we go. This was the trick play right here late in the second half. As you can see, we're circling it. We'll start all over here for you. So remember, 7-7, 5:35 left around. This was the trick play. They tried to do the throwback to J.J. McCarthy here. Alabama has it decently defended well here. I mean, look at this. I mean, I think Alabama has it decently, or has it defended. They're not totally fooled. I mean, look at Dallas Turner here. Dallas Turner, oh, shoot. He sees it. And they throw it to J.J. McCarthy. Let's let it play out here. Edwards throws it back. You didn't hear a lot from yesterday, by the way. A one-handed nice grab. That's a lateral. That's a fumble if McCarthy does not snag that. That is a fumble. It's a massive play right there. Dallas Turner may recover it. He takes a shot to give McCarthy that. But I'm talking about Kool-Aid McKinstry right here. Watch him. Number one, the corner at the bottom of the screen right there. Blake Corum coming underneath. Why is Kool-Aid McKinstry running at J.J. McCarthy? What's J.J. McCarthy going to do there? He's just trying to protect a lateral from going through a fumble. He's making one-handed freaking Randy Moss type grabs here. I mean, I don't think he's making Dallas Turner miss there. You got to have good eye discipline there. You got to see Blake Corum coming. I mean, who do you think he's throwing at? I mean, if he covers Blake Corum here, McCarthy's probably either throwing this away or he's taking a sack. That was a big play that allowed Michigan went on and scored, I think, 2 plays later to ultimately end up going up 13-10 at half and missed the extra point. That was a big play right there. That was one of the big plays right there. Not because it was just, it's a fantastic play by J.J. McCarthy, but it was one of those that, hey, Kool-Aid McKinstry, eye discipline. They're bringing Blake Corum over the top from an underneath standpoint. If you pick him up, that's a nothing play there. That was a big play. That was a big play in that game. That's some Alabama just doesn't they're just letting it get away a little bit there. Again, I think they have it sniffed out. They have it sniffed out. Let's go to the other. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next play. Here's one too I wasn't really fired up about. Like, this wasn't really a specific play, just a little scheme-wise in the first half. I thought Alabama could have been a little better here. This is Alabama's last drive heading into half. I mean, look how far away these guys are playing off of Alabama here. This is Jermaine Burton against, I think, Will Johnson. Yeah. I mean, look how off he's playing him here. And they're running a hitch and go. Michigan's defense, they play cover 3 regularly. They don't give up big shots of 20-plus plays or 20-yard plays or more. They don't give up a lot of those. They're one of the best in the country. They're the best, I think, top 3 in the country. So I don't know why you aren't just taking that underneath there. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, sit down. Watch, I'm going to replay it again. Watch, he's bailing. He's not biting on the hitch and go. Sit down there. I mean, what are we doing? There got to be some communication. Again, Alabama's offense this year a lot was boom or bust. It's like they felt like a fish out of water if they couldn't hit the big play. I just really didn't understand it. I really didn't understand it. It was interesting. And then here's one. I don't even want to show it on film. It's not even a film. It was, you got the illegal substitution play that made it 1st and 15 late in the fourth. Alabama about 6-7 minutes left. Jam Miller just picked up a big first down for Alabama. Then Alabama gets a penalty, 5-yard penalty for illegal substitution. Again, if Alabama got off schedule yesterday, they were in trouble. They got off schedule yesterday. So it backed them up 1st and 15, ended up, they threw in a hitch to Jermaine Burton. Something else happened. I forget the top. And then Jalen Miller took a sack, pushed him back. It made Will Reichert hit a 52-yard field goal to go up 7. If Alabama, again, scores a touchdown there to go up 10, it's over. That late in the game, Michigan wasn't going to go score twice. They just weren't. They're not built to do that. Those little plays like that where Alabama's beating themselves, the substitution plays that gets them off schedule and gets them 1st and 15, gets them away from the run game, those are plays that lose you the game. That was a big play there. Got Alabama off schedule. They never really recovered offensively from that standpoint. I mean, they had the big Jalen Milroe's first down, pick up the 11, 12-yard run in overtime on 2nd down. But outside of that, they didn't have another big play. That game, that was kind of the tail of the game right there. That big illegal substitution play knocked them out of really kind of putting the game away with getting 6. They ended up having to settle for 3, made it a 7-point game, and obviously Michigan went down and tied it. And then the final play, you know what I'm coming to. The final play, everybody's all up in arms with Tommy Rees about. Again, after watching it a few times, I don't think it was as bad as people think. I really don't think it was as bad as people think. There we go. All right, this is it right here. Let's make it big for you. All right, this is the final play here. As you can tell, ESPN Plus, rolling it back. All right, so as you know, it's 4th and goal. Alabama's got to score here to keep this game going. We're calling a bunch of timeouts, playing cat mouse here. Nick Saban said they liked their first look. Michigan called the timeout. Alabama didn't like their second look. They called a timeout. But here it is. A lot of people think this was an RPO. I think it was some window dressing. I think they were committed to the Jalen Milroe quarterback draw here. As you see, another low snap. What's new for Alabama this year was Seth McLaughlin. But low snap. But I think he was committed to this. And the more I watch it, I don't think it's as bad as a play as people think. If Jalen Milroe gets a little vertical, cuts it back left, I think it's a touchdown. I wish we had an end zone shot for an all-22 film of this because they showed it a little bit and I liked it. But again, though, I mean, J.C. Latham gets beat out here at right tackle. That busted up too. I think C.J. Dupree on the edge here, the tight end right here on the edge, could have done a better job of washing him down. It wasn't a play I would have called. Wasn't a play I would have called. I would have rolled him out, let him have an option to pick it up with his legs too. But Alabama had success in the second half running between the tackles with Jalen Milroe. They tried to use the eye candy there with motioning Roydell Williams out to get the linebacker out. And they did. They got him to go a little bit. Look at him. He's bailing. If you make Jaden Roberts pull in there at the right tackle spot, I don't think that was as bad of a call. Initially, I was kind of like, what the hell kind of play call was that? Going back and watching it, they just play 5 times. I've gone back and watched the game 3 times. I don't hate it as much. If it scores, everybody's like, man, what a great call by Tommy Rees. Alabama's been establishing the run game with Jalen Milroe here in the second half. What a great play call. You're asking a lot of people to go execute a job where everyone has to go execute. Again, that's what makes football great. You're having 11 guys having to go make plays, the best team sport there is. But again, I think it's there a little bit right there. Let's review it again. But I don't think this is an RPO. Some people think it is an RPO. I think he was committed to the design run here. He didn't even look. Some people are like, well, the low snap got him off. He didn't have time. I mean, he didn't even glance over Roydell Williams. But I think it's if he gets vertical there, cuts here, he's going to have to make a man miss. But I think he could have done it if he follows Jaden Roberts there. I think it's there. But again, I mean, let's say if he does go back to Roydell Williams here. Does Roydell Williams make this play? The linebacker freezes a little bit, hits him. Maybe he falls forward as momentum takes him. But who knows? Again, initially, I thought this was a bad call by Tommy Rees. In hindsight, I don't think it is as bad as a call as I initially thought it was. To give him credit, I don't think it's as bad as I initially thought it was. I'll give him credit. I don't think it was. But again, it is what it is. Hindsight is 20/20. But wrapping up this game, where I was wrong, where I was right, specifically with the Rose Bowl. Where I was wrong, I thought Alabama would have more explosive plays. In my count, when I'm counting a run, an explosive play is a run of 12 yards or more, a pass of 15 yards or more. Of my account, counting them, Michigan had 9, Alabama had 5. I thought Alabama would have some more explosive plays than that. I thought Michigan would have to win the field position battle to win this game, but they actually didn't. Special teams was porous for Michigan. Again, they didn't play their best game. A botched extra point, 2 botched fumbles, 1 they got lucky to get back on. I thought Alabama played phenomenal in special teams with James Burnup and obviously Will Riker making 2 big-time field goals of 50-plus. And then finally, I thought J.J. McCarthy needed to play the game of his life. I mean, he wasn't bad. I mean, he went 17 for 27, 221, 3 touchdowns. But he was okay. He wasn't fantastic or anything. I mean, he was okay. But I thought, I mean, if you would have told me that's what he was and I just watched that game and I just watched the Michigan offense and I watched him, I'd be like, yeah, I would have thought he needed to play a little better than that. But this isn't your typical Alabama team. I'll say that. This ain't your typical Alabama team. Where I was right. If Alabama didn't play its best, they certainly could lose this game. I was right. I think Bama had to play their best game again. I think a lot of people didn't watch Michigan a lot. Go back and watch the games. Underestimated them. Alabama had to play their best game to win this game, in my opinion. I think they had to do that to get it done. Thought it would take their best effort to win, and it didn't. And they didn't play their best. But, again, I said it going into this game. This was the best defensive line that Alabama's faced all year. The most physical team Alabama's played. I was right on that. I mean, Michigan's defensive line rolls guys, Chris Jenkins Jr., Mason Graham, Jalen Harrell, all really good players. All really good players. So that's where I was right. That's where I was wrong. But overall, wrapping this up, putting a bow on this Rose Bowl, this Alabama team, I think they overachieved. They just never played the complete game. I mean, what was probably their best game from top to bottom this year? Kentucky, where they kind of came out, got on someone early, and kind of never let up. Probably Kentucky. Even in their big wins, Tennessee, LSU, Georgia, they looked ugly at times. They didn't play a complete game all year, but at the same time, very gritty, tenacious team. They would play bad quarters or bad halves at times, but they always came back and bounced back. So give that credit. I think any realistic Alabama fan out there would tell you this team overachieved from where they were in September, from going back to the Texas game, the South Florida game, and all that. I think if you would have told they won the SEC and went to the college football playoff, people would have taken that. And I think this year maybe rejuvenated some Alabama fans that got a little, maybe a new age generation Alabama fan that just started being a fan in the past 10, 12 years during the Saban era, didn't really deal with the Mike Shula eras. Probably took Alabama football for granted. Hey, we just roll the balls out and we kick people's butts. That's what we do. This team, it kind of got boring for, again, I went to Alabama. I talked to a lot of Alabama fans. Kind of got boring for some Alabama fans. I think this year brought some fresh life. I mean, these Alabama games were fun to watch this year. They drive you nuts if you're an Alabama fan, these games. I'm sure Alabama fans would tell you. It was a frustrating team at times, but you love this team. They were fun to watch. The way they bounced back, it seemed like they really had a pure joy of playing together. So, again, I've said it again. This team won the SEC championship game. I think that was the ultimate ceiling for this team. Looks like I was right from that standpoint. But I think this was Nick Saban's best coaching job. I think you could maybe throw that 2015 team in there as well. It ended up actually winning it all. But I think this is one of Alabama, easily Nick Saban's top 3 coaching job, if not his best. But, again, Michigan advancing, getting the big win against Alabama, getting the monkey off their back, their 3rd appearance in the semifinal. It looked like they were going to start doing some Buffalo Bills type thing where they would get to it and couldn't finish the job. But they finished the job. They will face Washington next week, next Monday in Houston. So congratulations to Michigan there. But transitioning off a little bit from that standpoint, I see a lot of people trying to talk about just re-ranking. All right, hey, Alabama shouldn't have been in. Look at that game. Both these games came down to the final plays. There's some respected people out there that I'm kind of like, what are you talking about? So I just wanted to go back and re-rank my top 6, the final top 6 of what the CFP committee put together, and reshuffle that top 6. So let's lead off. I'd have Michigan at 1, Washington at 2. Call me crazy here. Georgia at 3. Texas at 4. Don't kill me, Alabama fans. Bama at 5. And then Florida State at 6. And no way in Haiti, even if Tate Ratledge or Tate Rodemaker's playing for Florida State, you're not putting them ahead of Alabama. I see some people trying to talk about that. And I think some people, are even talking about putting Georgia in ahead of Alabama. Look, I think Georgia, if they played the game 10 times this year, beats Alabama 6 or 7 times. I'll be honest with that. But people want to be, why do we play the games when talking about Florida State and Alabama? Why do we even play the games if they go 13-0? They didn't get in the playoffs. Well, Alabama and Florida State, we don't have a head-to-head comparison to make that judgment. Alabama and Georgia, we saw that matchup the day before the CFP committee. How the hell would you have put Georgia in over an SEC champion, 1-loss Alabama team over a Georgia team that they beat with the same record? I think Georgia's a top 4 team. I have them in the top 3. And remember, Michigan 1, Washington 2, Georgia 3, Texas 4, Alabama 5, and Florida State 6 would be my re-ranking in the top 6. If you made me as objective as possible. I think Georgia's probably better than Alabama, but you couldn't have put them in the playoffs. Now, people wait, well, are we going to put the 4 best teams or 4 most deserving? You can't be on too far. You can't be on one end of the spectrum or other. You need to be in the middle. Like I've said the whole time, even since these playoff rankings came out in early December. I think Georgia would beat Alabama 6 out of 7 times, but there's no way in Haiti you could have put them in the college football playoffs the day after Alabama beat them head-to-head, and now they have the same record, and Alabama won the Southeastern Conference. You just couldn't do that. Again, you can't just be who's the best team with the eye test, and you can't just be like, hey, they're 13-0 most deserving. It's got to be in the middle, like I said the whole time. But again, I still re-ranking the top 6. Just wanted to bring that up, but I think I'm being objective there. Re-ranking the top 6, I would go Michigan 1, Washington 2, Georgia 3. Some may disagree, but if you were ranking top 4 teams you wouldn't want to play, Georgia would be in 99.9% of people's. 100% guarantee it. But like I said, I'd have Georgia at 3, Texas at 4, Alabama at 5, and Florida State at 6. Just wanted to address that. And then finally, before we get you out of here, I know another kind of a shorter episode. It's all football heavy. We're about to get into conference play of college basketball, so we're going to be mixing up, be real college basketball heavy as well, keeping up with the portal in college football. But it's never too early to start talking about the 2024 SEC football season. It's a new era. It's a new era. We're adding Texas and Oklahoma. No more SEC on CBS. New TV contract with ABC and ESPN. I'm going to love to see where they put the primetime matchup. Is that going to be at night? Is that going to be a Fowler Herb Street game? Topic for another day, but it's essentially, it's not essentially, it's here now for football. A new era of the SEC is upon us. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Leading off 1 through 16, starting off at 16, the Vanderbilt Commodores. I mean, who's playing quarterback for Clark Lee and heading into his fourth season? The Doors got raided in the portal. Will Shepard gone. London Humphreys is gone. The program and Clark Lee got to figure out who they want to be. I know who Clark Lee wants to be. They got to get the NIL, the admissions process settled in. They're going to get picked off every year. Vanderbilt comes in at 16th to start the 2024 SEC Power Rankings. Number 15, Mississippi State, Levy time, baby. Year one. As of this moment, there's not much to expect right off the bat from Jeff Levy in his first year. Offensively, you lost all your best playmakers. Avion Thomas, Will Rogers is gone. He's now at Washington. Jaquavius Marks is gone. And you lose 6 out of your 7 leading tacklers. Add in, this is the third offensive system in 3 years. Right now, as we speak, and again, it's January 2nd, there is going to be so much we can break down between the time Mississippi State plays their first game. We got this portal season. And remember, the portal window closes tonight at midnight. But we got this portal season and we got the spring portal season. So Mississippi State could add some people. But right now, I could see it being a struggle year. A bowl would be a great year for Jeff Levy in his first year in Star Bowl. Number 14, Arkansas. Is Bobby Petrino going to roll with the Boise State transfer Taylon Green, or is Jacoby Criswell, the former North Carolina quarterback, is he going to be it? I think the defense is always going to play hard. They're going to be solid with Travis Williams. Not overly worried about that. Will they be elite? I don't know about that, but I think they'll be good enough. They got to figure out who's going to be their quarterback. I like the Bobby Petrino coordinator, the offensive coordinator position. But I think right now Arkansas comes in at 14th in a must-have year for Sam Pittman. So they got to get in the portal, get their feet wet there, figure out who's going to be under center if Sam Pittman wants to be here heading in 25. Number 13, the South Carolina Gamecocks, another big year for Shane Beamer. Sounds like Carolina, though, is going to roll with Lenore Sellers as QB1 as of right now. So, again, still early. Brought in some good backs in the portal so far. Rocket Sanders, Oscar Attaway from North Texas, and then Jared Brown, wide receiver from Coastal Carolina. The defensive front, though, on that side of the ball has to get better. That'll be key. I mean, South Carolina's ceiling is what it is until they get better in that front seven. So I think they're coming in with that 13th spot. I'm interested to see how Lenore Sellers looks. It looks like they're all in with him. Shane Beamer adores the kid. But not hearing great things from the Gamecocks right now as we sit, again, on January 2nd. A lot of time to add to your personnel, to your favorite team's roster. Number 12, schedule is difficult with the Florida Gators. In a must-have year for Billy Napier with the toughest schedule in the league heading in. The Gators do get Graham Mertz back. Is that a good or bad thing? I think it's a solid thing, Defense needs massive improvement. So does the offensive line. It's still a ton of question marks. Couldn't put them any higher than 12 when you factor in how tough the conference schedule, They play Miami, UCF, and Florida State, the other 3 big schools in state, in a must-have year for Billy Napier. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Billy, but they come in at 12 for me. 11, the Auburn Tigers, Hugh Freeze rolling into his second year. Is Peyton Thorne the guy? That's what I'm hearing. They like him. Had a rough Music City Bowl against Maryland in that loss. Auburn has to get better on the interior of the defense. They're losing their best defensive lineman, Marcus Harris. But with Thorne there, that team's going to have a ceiling no matter what. If I'm them, I'm going to at least bring in someone else out of the portal to come compete with him. I don't think Peyton Thorne's the guy it's going to go win 9, 10, 11 games at Auburn. I just don't. They need to be out there in that market. Hear great things about him. Hard worker, film junkie, first one in the building, last one to leave. But they got to go get something better than that, in my opinion. Number 10, Texas A&M. A lot lost in the transfer portal, and Mike Elko's first season. The key is do not bring bad apples in to be good to solid in his first year. I mean, I've heard things that they may bring Denver Harris back. What are we doing? That can't happen. You don't need to be bringing cancers in the locker room the first year, Coach Elko. A lot lost in the transfer portal. The key is do not go bring some bad apples. Just A&M first year. I know they want to beat Texas in the first time they play them. They want to win some games this new conference. But hey, 7-8 wins ain't going to be bad in this first season. You lost a lot of your personnel. Just pump the brakes from what I'm hearing. Pump the brakes. You got some stuff to work with. I mean, you're not going to have the top-end talent you've had just this year. Start building that foundation, that culture. That's don't push the panic button before you play a game. But as of right now, I can only put them at 10 due to their portal losses. Number 9, this is one of the few teams that has some question marks, but I think they've done a great job through the portal. They're probably the second best team through the portal right now outside of Ole Miss. But the Kentucky Wildcats, I know they have a disappointing loss in the Gator Bowl to Clemson in the year, but they brought in Brock Vandergrift, quarterback from Georgia. Barry and Brown, Dane Key are back at wide receiver. Edge, J.J. Weaver is coming back. I love the defensive tackle, Deion Walker. He's coming back. And they added one of the better linebackers out of the portal, Damon Dumas Johnson from Georgia. They added him. I think he's a solid get for him, one of the better pickups. I like what Kentucky's doing. So I think they're coming in at 9th right now. You maybe even put them ahead of LSU right now, but I'm not. So that's where they come in at 8 for me. LSU, Garrett Nussmeier, starter under center, got the big win in the ReliaQuest Bowl yesterday, down to the wire game against Wisconsin. It looks like it's going to be Nussmeier's job. Have to replace the OC, though. And top 2 receivers, and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., obviously Jaden Daniels. But the defense needs a complete overhaul in the secondary. What is Matt House? They got to get better. So I can't put LSU up there in that elite category with the rest of the team, with the rest of those teams yet. I can't. I want to see what they do on the back end of the secondary. Need to find some more reliable guys on the outside at receivers. That Chris Hilton, maybe. It'll be interesting to see. But LSU's got a lot of question marks coming into this season. Number 7, one of the new kids on the block, Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold did not have a great Alamo Bowl against Arizona, but I like the upside there. Could be replacing a lot on the offensive line, though. At least 4 starters, so that'll be a little scary with Jackson Arnold getting the start. But on defense, bringing back Billy Bowman, Danny Stutzman, and probably most likely 8 of their top 10 tacklers. So you like what Brent Venables, a defensive guy, has going on the defensive side of the ball. Offense got to get figured out. Remember, Dylan Gabriel heading to Oregon. It's Jackson Arnold's job. Didn't look great, but again, it was his first start. Offensive line's more of a concern with losing 4 out of 5 starters than anything else. But I like the foundation, the body types Oklahoma's bringing in. So I like them at 7th. Thought them and LSU were kind of vice versa, but I think Oklahoma has less question marks on the defensive side of the ball. Number 6, Tennessee. Nico looks like he's the next guy for Josh Heupel after a massive, good win, good momentum win, like I mentioned on SEC Unfiltered on our show on SEC Filtered yesterday. It was a momentum win. 9-4 looks a lot better than 8-5. They got a great Citrus Bowl win against a solid Iowa team. Nico Amalabea in his first start looked fantastic. The defense is going to be the question mark for Josh Heupel. A lot of their guys in the secondary, Warren Burrell, Danico Slaughter, guys like that, Tamari McDonald, all left the portal. You got Tyler Barron, edge guys in the portal. The defense is going to have to get short up there. Defense is going to have to get short up for them to really make a run in this new conference. And then offense, I think they have to find 2 to 3 real receivers. I think Ramil Keaton had a down year. Obviously, he's going. Squirrel White's a solid 2 to 3 guy. He can't be your number 1. So Tennessee's got to go get some guys on the outside that can make plays. They're losing Jabari Small and Jalen Wright, but I do like Dylan Sampson. I thought he had the most upside out of him. I thought Tennessee had the best running back room in the country this past year. But defense is going to be key. Defense going to be key. Great first start for Nico. Loved what I saw out of him. So I think they're going to be in great hands offensively. Just got to find some weapons for him, both in the backfield and on the outside. But really, that defense is going to determine Josh Heupel's ceiling next year in 24. Number 5, Missouri, coming off the 11-2 Cotton Bowl win against Ohio State. NIL's rolling there. Drinking the boys. Eli Drinkwitz has it rolling. Brady Cook's back. Luther Burden's back. Need to improve on defense a little bit. They lose some of their big guys. Chris Abrams-Drain, Tyrone Hopper, Jaden Jernigan up front. Chris Abrams-Drain's the corner. Tyrone Hopper, linebacker. He didn't play in the Cotton Bowl. And Jaden Jernigan, the defensive tackle. So they got to get better on defense more consistently. It'll be interesting to see how Missouri adjusts next year. But I think right now they could drop. But I think right now, as we stand on January 2nd, 2024, Missouri comes in at number 5. Coming in at number 4, probably the best month, one of the best months of college football history for a specific team when you factor in their transfer portal finish and their ability to win a CFP bowl game in the Peach Bowl. It's the Ole Miss Rebels. They'll have quarterback Jackson Dart back. Quinshon Judkins should be back. Ulysses Bentley back there in the backfield should be at Trey Harris. They got South Carolina transfer wide receiver Juice Wells, who was out for most of the years this past year. I mentioned Tyler Barron on the edge. Prince Yuma Malayan, Florida's one of their better edge guys. Walter Nolan. The only thing I question with Ole Miss to really go try to win the league next year is just depth. Just depth for the reps. But the schedule's manageable. They should start off 6-0. I think their toughest game will probably either be Kentucky at home or at South Carolina in those first 6. And they probably get their 2 toughest games outside of depending at LSU. Their 3 toughest games next year will be Georgia and Oklahoma, but those are both at home. They go at LSU. They should start 6-7-0. Schedule reminds me of their 2022 schedule, how it opens up. A lot of winnable games, not a lot of tough matchups at a conference. I think Wake Forest is their hardest matchup. I'd have to go look at it. You go play ULM. I know they play Georgia Southern. But Ole Miss, manageable schedule, a lot of top-end talent. They just have to stay healthy and build some depth. But Ole Miss should be easily a preseason top 10 team. Alabama coming in at number 3 for me. They have Jalen Milroe back. Offensive line should only get better with 4 starters coming back. I know some Alabama fans that may not be fired up about it, but Seth McLaughlin announced he was coming back. The only guy they lose on the offensive line should be J.C. Latham. Defensively, the interior of the defensive line, I like what Tim Keenan did against Michigan yesterday. He's back. Jaheim Otis, I wanted to see a little more this year. Thought he'd take that next step, but he didn't. But a lot of upside there. They lose both corners. Well, Terry Arnold sounded like he may left it open, but definitely going to lose Kool-Aid McKinstry. They have freshman All-American Caleb Downs back there. I think Trey Amos is going to be fine back there. That corner spot, the Jackson kid, the USC transfer, come in and play. You got Ricks that is going to play for him as well next year. Alabama's going to be fine. They're going to be fine. They lose both their edge guys with Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner. Alabama always loses people to the draft, and they replace it. They're going to be fine next year. They got a quarterback that is somewhat proven, has some things to work on in Jalen Milroe from an identification, IDing some blitzes that Michigan took advantage of last year. He's got to be more of, not a student of the game, be more intellectual, have some better football intelligence, I think, and be able to pick up some stuff where Alabama's coaches aren't having to make the calls for him. I mean, how great would Jalen Milroe be with the NFL microphones where they could tell him where the blitzes and stuff are coming from? But Jalen Milroe got to develop also an intermediate passing game. So some stuff to improve on for Alabama. They're going to have a good core nucleus back. Number 2, another new kid on the block, the Texas Longhorns. But what does Quinn Ewers do? That'll be key. If it's not him, it's going to be Arch Manning. They got to learn how to win. They got to the playoffs, and I think they played their tails off last night. I like their plan against Washington, but Washington's a good football team. But they got to learn how to win, get over that hump. They should be in great shape. One of the best offensive lines they probably had in a long time will be coming back. Defensively, I think they'll be fine. I like what Texas is bringing back next year. Got to keep that core culture, keep it as a hungry group heading into a new SEC next year. And then number 1, the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, they're going to be losing 30-plus players to the draft portal. But again, I think right now they have the best top 40 roster in the sport. You hear me say that all the time if you listen to us. Your top 40 roster, the top 40 players in your roster are key. It's not your first 22, not your first 11 starters on offense, 11 starters on defense. It's your top 40. Depth wins. You heard me bring it up about Ole Miss. They have a great top-heavy roster. Depth, staying healthy because injuries are inevitable. Georgia has that roster right now, they're the best top 40 roster in the sport and definitely in the SEC right now. So that's why I have Georgia coming in at 1. But again, the way too early 2024 SEC Power Rankings, Georgia at 1, Texas at 2, Alabama at 3, Ole Miss at 4, Missouri at 5, Tennessee at 6, Oklahoma at 7, LSU at 8, Kentucky 9, Texas A&M 10, Auburn 11, Florida 12, South Carolina 13, Arkansas 14, Mississippi State 15, and Vandy 16th. But I told you we'd get you a little in and out right there at 40 minutes. So we reviewed the Rose Bowl, reviewed on film the key plays that made some differences. I think one of the key underrated ones, if you really went back and watched that game, was that illegal substitution play that killed Alabama. It got them off schedule and said they had to settle for a field goal where a touchdown would have put the game on ice. Disappointing right there. But that's kind of what this team was at times this year. It is what it is. I re-ranked my CFP top 6. I re-ranked the CFP top 6. I went number 1, Michigan, number 2, Washington, number 3, Georgia, number 4, Texas, number 5, Alabama, and number 6 there at Florida State. Don't think it's that difficult, but I think at the same time, 2 things can be true at once. Georgia's a top 4 team. Don't think you could have put them in over Alabama the day after Alabama beat Georgia, had the same record and we're the SEC champs. That can't happen. And then again, never too early to talk about the 2024 SEC Power Rankings. I ranked it 1 through 16. I'll go post that on Twitter right when we get off here. But again, it's about to be real basketball heavy, guys. We start conference play on Saturday. I'll actually be at Memorial Coliseum in Nashville to watch Alabama play Vanderbilt. I'll be there for work, being at the AFCA Coaches Convention for work for Quick U. But again, I'm going to be having a lot of great content, not obviously on our channel, still our show, live show on Monday. I know today's Tuesday, but wanted to give a recap after the Rose Bowl, the college football games from yesterday. Wanted to give a recap. Also, I'll be doing 2 things a week on SEC Unfiltered with Chris Phillips' show, formerly the Spurs Up show. So catch me on that. But man, can't wait to bring it. We're going to have a fantastic winter/spring coming up with the transfer portal in football, spring football, college basketball, like I mentioned, conference play starts, and then obviously baseball when we get into February. But again, I appreciate you joining us on this episode of Mock 10 Sports. You have a fantastic evening.